Welcome to East Coast, West Coast. I am your host, Danny Rocco, with my famous co-host, Mr. Mike Flynn over there in the West Coast. How are you today, Mike?
Hi, Danny.
You doing good? Is the weather, I asked him, is the weather nice? And he's like, I don't know. It's Seattle. What does that mean?
Everybody knows what Seattle weather is. Oh, the sun came out. That's amazing. It must be mid-July.
Well, you get what you get. But we have with us today a very special guest, Todd Dean. Todd, where are you right now?
I'm in Sun Valley, Idaho, but we have Seattle weather today.
I beat people with the weather here in New Hampshire. It's beautiful, it's 70, it's sunny. I win, I never win, so yay me today.
Oh, cool.
But let's just get down to business. I can chat weather all day long, but Todd, tell the world a little bit about who you are.
A little bit about myself. I live in Sun Valley, Idaho. I lived in Seattle for 27 years. I started my career in the life insurance industry, did that for 10 years. It was a very successful career in that. And then I went through a divorce. And after that divorce, I started investing in startup companies and get involved in startup companies. And that's where I learned to cut my teeth in building and working with startups and startup CEOs and the capital side of things. That's actually where I met Mike Flynn when he was the former editor of the Puget Sound Business Journal, which is very significant. And then in 2010, I started getting into working with the CEOs directly, primarily in the capital structure, but that morphed into the psychology side of things. And so I specifically started working with them around addictions, trauma, their issues. And then that just took me on a whole different path, which has led me to today building the first of its kind wellness center around trauma that results in dealing with addiction, depression, suicide, and mental health.
Yeah, and it's different. You take all these different modalities in the wellness industry and you've kind of, in my words, plopped them all together. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I wouldn't say all because wellness is pretty broad, but we take some very specific areas and specifically dealing with the root. We deal with the root issues of dealing with addictions, depression, suicide, and mental health. And it's kind of like, when you plant a seed, that seed's going to grow down before it grows up. And that's really where our focus is dealing with the roots of our childhood and our lives, which quite frankly is the foundation of everything about our lives. So we deal in a couple different areas. Number one, we deal from a spiritual standpoint, educational structure standpoint. We deal with it from a technology standpoint. And then we also bring in some Eastern philosophies, which have been around for hundreds and thousands of years.
Mm-hmm. What kind of Eastern?
So we do yoga, meditation, acupuncture, and then there's some others as well. There's one, for example, and actually there's a company out of Ogden, Utah called VibraVision. And that's one of the technologies that we're incorporating. And it teaches blind people how to see without our eyes. Literally, they can see shapes, color, sizes.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're so accustomed to Western philosophies of knowledge. And this takes a completely different viewpoint. And it literally teaches blind people to see without using their eyeballs.
It seems like you've come up with a project in Sanjara that at just the right time, an example perhaps that emerging from the coronavirus is going to bring opportunities for emerging types of businesses addressing emerging issues and needs. Discuss that a little bit, if you would.
Thanks, Mike. I think you're absolutely right on. We're riding a wave. It wasn't planned that way for any of us, quite frankly. But the reality is COVID-19 has compounded the isolation issues. So if you look at addictions and mental health both, part of those issues is that people are very isolated, and then their addictions and their mental health issues are the way that they act out. So COVID has actually made it even worse. So if you look at the statistics from CNN, New York Post, and the list goes on and on and on. Fox News, I get both of those in there, of course. The depression has gone up, stress has gone up, suicide's gone up, alcoholism has gone up. Alcohol went up 55% in sales in the month of March, for example.
So somebody's business was good.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
You kind of had this idea. What made you come up with this idea? Because this idea was planted and is in the process before COVID.
So when I ran my investor group, I thought I was all that in a bag of chips. And so my ego was pretty equivalent to my status within the community of Seattle. As I've gotten older, I've learned to let go of the ego and to just trust faith. And to be honest, this project has been a test of faith all the way through. And so I really look at it as I'm just a worker bee, and I'm just here to do something for the greater good, quite frankly, for all of us. And it's taken every direction you can imagine, like startups do. But the long and short is that I just feel that there's something much, much, much greater compelling me to build this and get this out to the masses as quickly as possible.
So like equity funding for mental health startups went a record high, in the first quarter of 2020? Why? Why do you think that?
You mean as far as the investment side of things?
Yeah.
So we had in Q1 this year, so from January through the end of March, which is of course obviously during COVID, we had over 581 million invested in the health and wellness space in the United States. And so it's projected to be the next $500 billion market space. So I think the reason why is because people are just tired of not being happy, and the solutions they're looking for they're not getting the results.
Right.
And really, that's the bottom line. And so I think that Sanjara is one of those major solutions to help people really truly find that peace of mind that quite frankly, we're all looking for. So the investment's going to continue to grow. I think the millennials are a big part of driving this growth, which I love. And so thank you, millennials. And so they're looking for those solutions, and we happen to be one of them.
Why do
you think it's because they think outside of the box, the millennials?
Okay, so I had both you. Which question?
Answer me first, because he'll transfer into the next one.
Okay, what's your question, Danny?
I said, do you think it's because the I can't even speak on it. Think outside of the box.
Yes. Millennials, I think, are tired with the way they grew up, quite frankly, with their parents' situations and seeing what they saw growing up. And there's so much about information. I was camping this weekend with a friend, and his son made this little squirrel trap that he found on YouTube, how to make this trap. I mean, they are so resourceful, and they're just looking for those answers, and we're going to provide one of those solutions. So thank you.
You made the point one time we were talking about behavioral health companies are making strategic moves to grow, like mergers and acquisitions. So they must perceive a massive growth in those kind of solutions to problems. Tell me about that.
So if you look at, for example, Hazelden Betty Ford, which is the largest in the country, and I think they have 5 major locations. They're continuing to grow. Cirque Lodge, which is out of Provo, Utah, they're doing a huge expansion right now, which I'm a huge fan of that facility. The Meadows, I don't think is necessarily growing in size, but they've certainly grown in market awareness. And there's many, many, many others. Sierra Tucson, Malibu, the list goes on. The market's looking for the solutions, Mike. So you're going to continue to see some new players come in, like Sanjara Wellness, but also you're going to definitely see the Betty Ford, Hazelden continue to grow as well.
So who are the companies in whose market you're going to be? Are you unique or part of a growing group of people?
So I'm sorry, say that question again, Mike.
Well, you mentioned several. They're all doing similar things, and you're similar to them, or
that's a good question.
One of a kind. Okay.
The answer is both. Okay. So we're taking bits and pieces of a lot of different modalities. Okay. What makes us extremely unique in the US and quite frankly in the world is the way we bring all these methodologies together. And because of that, we have different outcomes. So we're really focusing on what are the solutions to change the patterns of behavior for an individual. And that's really our focus. So that's what we do the best. And that's where you'll hear more and more more press about us as we continue to grow.
I want to know, I'm curious, how did you come about this? Did you go one way and then it was just the snowball effect?
So that's a great question, Danny. It was a combination of my own personal journey and just a lot of things I learned along the road. I was trying to figure out my own issues, trying to figure out my own happiness, my own peace, my own well-being, my relationship between me and my father, and my relationship with me and my mother as well. So it was several different roads that kind of led me down this path. And then I got very, very privileged I've been fortunate to meet and spend time with the top professionals in the country. So in psychology and psychiatry, the CEO of a psych hospital, the chairman of the board at Hazelden Betty Ford. I mean, I've had many, 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 many discussions and relationships that have validated what we're doing. But more importantly, I got to learn from them as well. So we're taking the best of breed, but then we're incorporating some new things as well.
So along the way, I was curious, did you find things that you were like, oh, before I go on with this, Jonathan's watching and he's like, hey, so just a big shout out to Jonathan for watching.
What?
Jonathan Frizzell.
Somebody's watching live and they were like, hi. So I was just telling them that. Were there along the journey, did you find things that you were like, I don't agree with this?
Oh, for sure. So one of my board of advisors is one of the top neurologists in the country. She's world renowned. She did a lot of the studies around the concussions with NFL. She's one of the expert testimonies in that particular area. And we come at it from a philosophy of that the choices and behaviors which dictate and end up being our addictions and mental health issues, the core of that is from childhood trauma and is not genetic. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now she had a discussion.
That's a unique concept, isn't it?
Not necessarily. There's people on both sides of the pond on that, kind of like politics, Democrat, Republican kind of thing. But she came at it. She said, "Listen, we've got these studies from Columbia, blah blah blah," which she's right. But we have as many studies on our end as well to prove that, hey, listen, this stuff is learned based on the environment that we're in. So there's a lot of controversy around that. And then one of the technologies that we're incorporating has some woo-woo stuff. And I'm not a big woo-woo guy, but I'm telling you, it works. So regardless
so maybe
of what
you are a big woo-woo guy? I'm just putting it out there.
I wouldn't say a big woo-woo guy. Let's just say I'm learning. I'm always learning.
So what do you come up with? I want to stay on this for a second. So what do you come up with when someone says no? They're on your board of advisors or they're one of your people that you've taken in and you're like, I don't agree with this, or they don't agree with you. How do you handle that?
It's not my place to judge. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion, regardless of what that is.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, I'm not here to please everybody. I'm just here that we do the best at what we're the best at and provide those results. That's our focus. So, I'm not here to please everybody. And if I was, I'd drive myself crazy.
Well, you would fail a lot at it, by the way. But with COVID and the economic turndown and the negativity and the heightened there's so much abuse and so much addiction. It's tenfold, right now. How do you see that going in the future? How are you,
people only want to change when the pain is high.
Yeah.
And so when things are good, they don't want to change. And so there's always a blessing behind, the darkness. And so the darkness is what drives that light. And in my opinion, I'm just saying, hey, listen, let's get the doors open. Come on in. We're here to help you when you're at your lowest point in your life. And COVID's, that's part of that isolation and that depression that people are in right now. And there are solutions like what we're doing, and quite frankly, many others.
How about investors? Is it making a difference in this day and age with investors?
I think investors, they want a return on their investment. So my number is, in all seriousness, investors want to make money. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so we provide one of those channels that they can invest in Sanjara. They're going to get nice ROIs. We continue to expand and open new Sanjara Wellnesses across the country and globally. But at the end of the day, I mean, investing is about making money. So on whatever market. So right now, health and wellness is hot. So come talk to us.
You're seeking some fairly healthy investment to build and operate Sanjara. What kind of people do you see investing in this? Traditional investors, non-traditional?
That's a good question. So we are in conversations. We've had investors that were individual investors and individual investors continue to put money into Sanjara Wellness because they want to invest in something in a greater cause. So, for the well-being. We're talking to some large institutions, and then we're also talking to some family offices that could take the growth of Sanjara and, quite frankly, take it to a whole new scale. And so we're talking to a lot of different types of investors, Mike, and the answer is we welcome all of those.
Before we wrap up here, I do have a question. Well, we have a couple minutes left. Who do you think is Sanjara for? I understand the concept, but who would reach out and say, you know what, I need a transformation?
So our initial clientele will be the movie stars, rock stars, CEOs, models. Okay, and we already have a direct path to that clientele. I'm a business guy, so I have to make sure that my investors make money. Okay, that's the only reason why I'm doing a high-end facility first. But as we continue to grow and morph and develop Sanjara and open new locations, my long-term goal is to open probably under a different name, of wellness centers that anybody and everybody can go to. Because ideally, I'd love to, the single mom in Rainier Valley that's working 2 jobs. She's got teenagers. She has issues with both of them. She's doing the best she can. She came out of a domestic violence situation. She needs as much help as anybody else. And so my heart really goes out to everybody, but initially it'll be a higher end clientele.
But those everybody's can't really take time away to immerse themselves in the services and wellness you provide. So how do you provide for somebody? Do they have to stay? Can there be a shorter involvement for somebody who really can't afford to take time?
That's a good question. So Mike, I don't have all the answers, and I wish I had that answer. I don't.
Okay.
As we continue to grow and morph, that will get more and more and more refined, and we will definitely be able to, button some things up and shorten some aspects to get the same results. But the answer is I don't have that answer today.
Okay. So
I'll let you pass on that.
Yeah.
We're about done.
I just said I'd let him pass on that.
Yeah.
We're about done.
Yes, we are. And Jonathan, I know I am so funny. So thank you for letting the world know, Jonathan, that I am funny. I have my moments. But before we finish up, Todd, is there anything else that you would like to say, share, advice, tips? Because you are a wealth of knowledge and positivity yourself. Besides being a brilliant businessman.
A wealth of background.
Well, first of all, thank you too for having me on the show. At the end of the day, there's just a lot of pain in that market today. And there's a lot of people looking for solutions. And I'm just here to tell you, we're just one of, but we are definitely a solution for you. So if you are struggling individually, feel free to reach out to Danny or Mike or myself. I know where to send people and I know how to work with people today. And there are solutions to your biggest, darkest struggles right now.
That's a cool message.
That's good. And it's even when you don't know what those struggles are, right? Even when you don't know what those struggles are, having that.
Exactly.
Solution.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. Mike, thank you for joining me and being the man that you are over there in Seattle. And for everybody else, until next time when the East Coast and the West Coast collide, we will see you.
Thank you very much.
See you, Todd. Bye.
Okay, see you guys.